Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Will Wright, and welcome to the second edition of episode of Bear With Me. I know a lot of Bear fans, look, we're in the first quarter. Just stick with me. I know a lot of you are pissed off. I'm upset. I'm frustrated. But we're about to turn this thing around. We're about to turn it around. And it's my job to keep you all motivated, plugged in, keep the vision of having a successful season. We waited for this all summer. So don't jump off the ship just yet. Give it some time to come together and come into fluidity and get ready to give us something that we've been cheering for and yearning for all summer. So today we got a special guest, a 7th round draft pick from 2010, 218 that we selected. Hey, he was phenomenal. And he's back. Mr. Jamarcus Webb, what's going on, my guy?
Hey, what's going on? Thank you for having me today on Bear With Me. How are you today, sir?
All right. Look, we're glad to have you, Jamarcus. So, look, just fill the Bear family in as to, when you were selected back in 2010, how did that day change your life?
It changed my life for the better. It changed my life in a way that is, incomprehensible. To this day, it's still it blows my mind that it's been this many years since I originally began in Chicago. But the journey is something that I get a chance to really smile at right now, and I get a chance to segue into and transition into a life that I could have only dreamed of, and that is with helping people. Back in 2010, it was, I was 21 years old at the time, and so a lot of new things happening. The city was very live. The Blackhawks were winning, Stanley Cups. The Bulls were doing their thing, the Cubs and the White Sox, obviously phenomenal organizations, and we were a premier football team, and we played like it, and everyone acted like it. And as you know, we had a chance to have some fun with the fans at that particular time.
That's awesome, because think about this: when you came 2010, I think that year y'all went 11-5, and that was on the Lovey. So how did Lovey really inspire you? As a Christian, as a devoted leader, how did Lovey really just get you fired up to want to go out and have a successful career starting back then?
Well, it was really managing our own time, allowing us to be the men that we were, and whether it was from treatment to recovery to getting in the film room to preparation for the day, or even in the off season with the workouts and the running or whatever the case. It's just it's that 1% better mentality, and there was so much energy in terms of the wisdom coming from that being practiced, from some of the great players that were there when I was playing.
That's awesome, because now I'm getting ready to segue this thing, Jamarcus. Everything you just said, when you look at 2010 and now let's fast forward to 13 years later in 2023, and you see a young Bear squad that had so much potential this past training camp summer, had the fan base just ecstatic. Even me, I predicted them ceiling to be around 15-2 in Florida, to be around 12-5, because ultimately I'm looking at everything. Even though I knew it was going to be a work in progress, but I still believe, and I still believe right now, that they can turn things around as we stand 0-3 going into this weekend against the Denver Broncos. When you look at back then in 2010 with the team you all had, and now you fast forward to 2023, like what are some of the things that you're seeing that, and we can go from the offensive line perspective. First of all, I want to know who you think on the line has been stellar and been a surprise to this point, and what do you see we can do moving forward to have more success?
I gotta love on my offensive line. First of all, like I have to after playing that position and knowing that the versatility is it's going to happen no matter who the player is. A lot of times we as players, we want to say that we're a tackle, we're a guard, we're a center, but at the end of the day, they all have to be versatile, and a lot of times that takes time, and so you can't, like you described, jump ship. Especially when in my own career, I've had a situation where I was on a team. I guess go ahead and shout out on the Colts in 2018 when that team went from 1-5 to a playoff team, and so it's never too late. You can't give up the fight now, and so a lot of injuries happen quickly. From my perspective, the NFL, it's like you described, the first quarter, all the injuries happen because everyone's hyped, everyone's coming out the gate swinging, and you don't want to be 0 whatever. You don't want to be 1-5. You don't want, but that in terms of quarters, it's like it's never how you start; it's always how you finish.
Correct.
As long as and even myself playing, it's like early on in the game, you just got to settle down, poise in the noise. We're in a hostile environment at all times, and you have to be poised. You don't rush into attacking the individual in the first quarter. Yes, you strategically implement imposing your will, but you do that all game consistently, and that is all that that will help. Moving forward is those guys playing together consistently, communicating consistently. Now, I'm not going to say that it's not possible. There are studs out there. For instance, Darnell Wright, the right tackle, is finding a way to impose your will in the run game, and taking it in stride at tackle. In the National Football League, it's like transitioning from defensive fronts to different guys' speeds to different players across from you. It's like we want those things to come right now, but in time, he will slow his feet. He'll slow his eyes, right? He'll communicate properly, and there you will find yet another phenomenal player. But in terms of the offensive line continuity, with young guys, with different guys switching around, it's like, and it's about the locker room, right? Always, it's always about who's in there putting in the work daily for one another, because that is ultimately what these guys are there to do, and that is to love on one another.
So think about this. You just made a phenomenal point, Jamarcus. Think about in 2010, you played with Jay Cutler. Like, who were some of the leaders in that locker room that really galvanized the troops, that really inspired, motivated when things were going bad, when things were in disarray? Because ultimately, now, if you look at the Bears roster, it's relatively young. And like I tell people, like Justin, he isn't a rah-rah guy. He inspires and motivates with his performance. DJ Moore is not a rah-rah guy. He inspires and motivates with his performance. But like, who did y'all have in the locker room that really galvanized the troops? Because see, that's why people think I'm crazy, because I've been the one that's always motivated and inspired and galvanized the troops and got everybody fired up, regardless of the chaos, regardless of what was going on around, and always found a strategic solution to overcome the issue and get the results that we're seeking. So during your playing tenure, Who was that one or two guys that really just pulled you all together and said, look, regardless of the adversity, we're gonna band together as men, as brothers, and find a way to come up out this foxhole and get the results that we've worked hard all week and all summer to get.
The beautiful thing, I believe, on that team that I was on that year, every single week, no matter what the adversity, there was always someone different preaching some of the same things that the others were preaching, and that is sticking together, knowing that you give it your all because that man next to you is doing the same. I mean, that was, and at the time, like I described, I was a young man. I was literally trying to, not only endure and withstand, obviously, the different things like the cold. We forget those things.
Oh, yeah.
But
that win off Lake Michigan,
the grind, enjoying the grind because we get to do those things, right? We get to go out there and play with one another and play this game at a high level. And so, I can just start naming off so many different names. Obviously, I'm gonna start with my old heads, Roberto Garza and Olin Kreutz. At that particular time, Garza was at guard, Olin was at center, and I was a young tackle out there, literally watching things just crisscross, trying to figure out which one to get. But I settled in, and I was going against someone like Julius Peppers. I mean, every day in practice. So actually, all these guys I was going against, it was more like, well, they're not him. So you should at least put your hands on him a little bit. But Peanut Tillman and Lance Briggs, Urlacher, and I had Devin Hester on the team. Matt Forte. Just the not only the talent, but the watching these men work was one of the coolest things. And I'm talking about just being free doing it because they prepared.
Right.
They prepared to win. And when we lost, we just looked at each other like, well, they got us today, guys. And then what did we do? We erased that and prepared to win the next one.
But something, Marcus, in today's time, when you think about that, when you get your behind kicked royally, like me, I could do an immediate brain dump, go back, watch film, look at the details, and say, look, this is what we need to do to be prepared for the next game. Like how do you make that transition to the point where it doesn't hinder you, but also attack your mental psychic and have you in a thought process where week in, week out, regardless of who the opponent is, we're going to lose?
It's just believing in the process. The beautiful thing about when they decide to make that 53-man roster, it is the professional athlete's duty to tighten down the hatch. This is us. This is all we got. This is all we need, right? And so that's believing every single week, that every single practice, every single moment that they put time and effort into working their trade, they continue to believe and have that faith in one another. Sometimes guys have bad days. Sometimes injuries become a threat, but you can't allow those things to bring you down. All I'm saying is we talked about the locker room and how guys may or may not be rah-rah guys. It's the fact that they're present. It's the fact that they are, actively seeking the knowledge, right? Competing against one another in practice and competing against that team every single Sunday to the point where, they get one and then two and then three and then four. Uh, I've been on some rebuilding teams. They call it rebuilding teams. I've been on some rebuilding teams.
Right.
And that's not what this is at all. And so, if I were able to get in the building, of course, I would love on the offensive line coach, Coach Morgan.
Oh yeah, Simo.
Yeah, and then obviously get a chance to talk with some of the guys a little bit, about what that long haul looks like in this now 17, 18 game season.
Right.
Right. So, and
Marcus, you mentioned that because, look, and we're going to talk about that a little later in the show about what you're currently doing right now. One of the viewers asked, he said, when Aaron Rodgers had the Achilles tear, did it hurt? Because it didn't look like he was in pain. From when you observed that, and based off what you're doing right now, what would be your response to that?
My response would be that, he was in a big time game, so his adrenaline's pumping, so yeah. And then we practice not showing emotion in different times. We know that the camera's on us a lot of times. So it's like, not giving that's actually a competitive thing, I believe. It shows his strength and his tenacity as a competitor, in the effect that something bad happened. It's like, no, we're going to get through this, this too shall pass kind of thing. I hate to see that you get hurt on running around. And I've actually had a situation where I wasn't receiving any contact and I have torn something, and that's really just sometimes it's from overuse. Sometimes it's from not allowing it to fully heal. Who knows?
Right.
Who knows? But that's unfortunate. But I have personally battled back in a bunch of different ways, especially with different therapies and modalities. And those things now allow me to, stand tall and move around like even better than I was when I was younger.
And it clearly shows. So let me ask you this, Jamarcus, because we had this conversation at the alumni dinner and also during week 1 against Green Bay. You play with Jay Cutler. Do you see any correlation between Jay Cutler as far as athleticism, as far as the ability to conceptualize with Justin Fields? Like what correlation do you see between Jay and Justin, and how do you think a lot of that can start transitioning to some wins in the current day status?
You're playing for one of the best organizations in the league. As the franchise quarterback, they want the big plays, and they've had them, which is what you see Justin do a lot of times when he's running the ball. He's like, you know what, I'm here to win. You can feel it, and just because certain things don't translate to wins, you didn't win the battle, but there's still a war out there. We got 17 of these things. So, that's how I feel now. It's it's being patient with the targets that you have in front of you. I remember the different receivers that we had back then. They were all phenomenal, but injury is always around the corner for all of us. It's 100% injury rate. Let's not let's not forget these things.
Right. And that's the reason why I asked that, Jamar, because like everybody ragged on Jay for when he hurt his ACL in the championship game. Well, I was at the Kansas City game and I saw Justin kind of woozy. DJ Moore grabbed him, to take him off the field. Look, you would have thought he got concussed, but then the coaches put him back out there. So from your perspective, from your point of view, one, based off of the shots that Justin had taken, do you think it was malpractice for the coaching staff to put him back out there without, properly getting the green light that he was okay? Because first and foremost, to me, health is more important than anything in this game, as you and I discuss all the time.
Yes, it is. Okay. From the football player's perspective, as a competitor, I always want to leave everything on the field, and I did. So what I believe is that they asked the green light, and the green light was from him personally. To answer your question, though, health is the most important thing. And I believe that they are doing a wonderful job in evaluating these players and taking the time to implement some of the things that are necessary. Do I believe that there are some things that can also help? Yes. But I'm not in that position to necessarily, speak on things that have to do with the brain. Right now, I do things with the body in an elite movement modality that I believe helps with revitalizing, re-energizing, and restoring some of the healing aspects so that we naturally get back to our natural, selves through hydration, sleep, diet, exercise, stretching, and hygiene. But those professional athletes do those things on a regular basis. And so a lot of times as a competitor, you want to leave it all out there. So I do believe that was what happened. I'm not sure, I wasn't there. But moving forward, I would just how therapy has become a normal thing in today's world. I also believe that since there are different therapies, that one can integrate actually describing what's going on with the body instead of hiding it, right? We always try and overcompensate or say that I can deal with this too. But when that compounds, the little things become big things.
Right. So let me ask you this, Jamal. As a left tackle, you protected Jay's blind spot. From your perspective, from a cerebral perspective,
okay.
Let's fast forward now to Justin. How do you feel that? Okay, when Justin drops back, how can he scan the field to get better vision? And again, I know at left tackle you blocking to ensure that defensive end is not bearing down on him. What would you say?
So, man, that's tough because
to get wide receivers to see these wide receivers to get open. What would you recommend for Justin to do to be able to really just see the field better and get the ball to his playmakers? And I know a lot of it is scheming and a lot of it is concepts from the offensive coordinator, but a lot of it also is the ability for the line to block as well and allow him to process. But when he does get the opportunity to process, what do you think some things that he can do to be able to get the ball to his playmakers so that they can get some yards out the catch and keep the chains moving?
Okay. Without, I'm trying to figure out how to say this without because I'm not a quarterback, obviously. Okay, it is just how you're in a car and you're driving on the freeway. You want to advance, right? So just how on the offensive ball, we want to advance. So it's like, okay, when we get to that back foot, we want to step up into and that's where the offensive line has to be very firm with their fundamentals and their techniques, obviously, every single time to give give what we describe as a pocket the ability for it to be a pocket and allow the tackles to be athletic. When I got into obviously playing professionally, that's what the game was. Obviously, it's changed a little bit, but it is about holding a firm line in the sand, right, and being able to communicate. There's a lot of oh man, there was a moment when I was a rookie. I just remembered this right now. It was a moment when I was a rookie. It was getting cold, and the temperature change allowed me to lose my voice. And it was like a week before I don't even know who we were playing, but I just remember I couldn't scream. And they were doing all different kinds of movement on defense, and I was getting just wailed on by my veterans about how I have to communicate. You're a starter. You need to yell. You need to describe things, right? And so that communication is key for the offensive line. In terms of, like I was describing, it's just getting back, getting set, and then advancing the pocket, moving that pocket, because once the offensive line feels a lot of times when those guys get older, they'll start to really pay attention to those defensive linemen and because where their eyes are at, obviously, and those eyes will tell you where he is, in the pocket, instead of looking us. A lot of times we're also looking downfield to see if the ball's thrown to then obviously get to the ball. So, all that is in timing. The routes, the offensive line's cadence, with the play call, with obviously advancing the ball. So, I believe that is exactly what they're doing. Coach Eberflus was my defensive coordinator both times when I was at the Colts, when we went to the playoffs. And I have all the confidence in his ability to get these guys going.
Okay, look, see, now you just opened up a can of worms. So you said he was your defensive coordinator when you were with the Colts. So what is it that you saw when you were with the Colts that would give you any belief that he is the man for the job, but also can turn around what it's like?
That's great.
Like Jamarcus, we've lost. Last year we lost 10 straight, and so far this year, that's 13 games. And the defense alone has given up 25 points a game. So by you saying that, from a concept perspective, like you got actual experience with the Flus. What is it from when you were with the coach that you saw that will carry over now to current day? Because I'm gonna be honest, with that cover 2 defense, if you don't have a 3 technique, it's not gonna work. Like you got to have someone that can dent the pocket and not be back there reading the Wall Street Journal, drinking coffee, and calling his kids, and then throwing no look. Like I'm real big on man press. And I know you got to have the personnel to run these different schemes. But what is it? Let's be honest now. Give me an honest assessment of what you saw.
It's about personnel.
What you saw, it's all about personnel. Right now, Matt Eberflus is 3-17 as a head coach. Man, like that's beyond atrocious. And I'm a realist. I can't go into a board meeting and tell my staff that, oh, things are going to be all right. The economy's falling, but things are going to be all right. No, we got inflation. We got the cost of houses is through the roof. Like at the end of the day, like I'm a realist as to what the situation is at hand. And then I sit down and assess and put together a realistic approach of how to mitigate, rectify, or fix. Like, you tell me from what you saw during your time in Annapolis, that should give me hope that we got the right person in charge to turn this thing around. Exactly. That's what I thought.
Man, I am not a controversial individual. Now, I am gonna love.
I'm not either. I'm a realist, and sometimes I'm a little far-fetched in my forecast and my predictions, but because I just believe on an astronomical sense of things that we can control to get better, we'll get better. But when I got a defense that's playing like Pop Warner, come on now, we wouldn't spend a lot of money on linebackers when realistically, now I'm starting to look, should we have kept Roquan Smith and invested that money in a defensive and I know hindsight is 2020, but if you're gonna run a defense that Lovie Smith pretty much put his stamp of approval on, and it was successful because we had my little bro Tommy Harris at the 3 technique. If you're gonna if that's the type of defense we're gonna run, you gotta have the personnel to run it. That's all I'm saying. If not, then we got to tweak and we got you got to put things in place to set your team up for success. And right now, what we're running, that's not setting the defense up for success. I'm gonna just be honest. We don't have a dominant edge rusher, so we got 1 sack, Jamarcus, in 3 games. Like, come on now. Like to me, that not only is that a recipe for disaster, but also that's almost a recipe for termination, and because it's not getting any better. A quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, he showed you in the first half, he carved that defense up like a Thanksgiving turkey. Baker Mayfield carved it up. Even Jordan Love carved it up. So now we got Russell coming to town, followed by Sam Howell with the Commanders, followed by, and these are all winnable games, followed by Kirk Cousins. But all the teams that we're playing, either they got a quarterback that is not realistically at Justin's level, or they got a defense like the Broncos this weekend that gave up 70 points to the Dolphins. So when I see that, I'm like, look, the Dolphins rushed for 300 yards. Man, I'm going 12 personnel, and I'm going to pound them. I'm going to control the time of possession, because think about it. Did you like going downhill, or did you like retreat to play at pass block? Especially to the other team, for the most part, had a better offensive concept and talent than you had. So which way did you prefer? Did you want to just pass block retreat, or did you want to go down here and punch somebody in the face?
The game has evolved a lot of times for the better, right? But when I got into the league, it was a run NFL. If you could not run the ball, you weren't going to win no games, and you sure were not going to make it to the playoffs. And so having, I have to love on my offensive line, and then I have to also, put it on them as well. Because at the end of the day, the offensive line are the other leaders of the team. They're the engine. So, it's like that's how I always felt as a player, and that's how I feel now. They are the engine. So I would want to put all my energy in that, because it's like that is exactly what allowed those wins that I experienced there to happen, and that was the attention to detail when it came to defensive fronts, to setting the tone, to even if it was a play calling, we still had to execute, right? So offensively, uh, I've seen some big plays by their offense, and so it's not like it doesn't happen. The accountability definitely has to reign within. But yeah, I don't get into the deep dark depths of what coaches need to be doing. I'm a coach right now with the body, and so it's like I'm like, hey, whoa, we're all human here. But yes, it's still time is just an interesting thing. You talk about 3-17. Now, yes, I have not experienced that. I have not experienced that.
And that's my point exactly, because Chicago's a great city. The fans are a great fan base.
Yes,
They travel well.
they travel well. Huge. Yes,
You understand what I'm saying? So
I
when
do.
you feel like you're getting a product that's not giving you a return on investment, then it does become demoralizing. But I'm gonna ask you the question, because Braxton Jones, the young left tackle, he's in his second year out of Southern Utah. He pretty much has traveled the same path as you. Like, what's some advice that you would give him to not? And he's hurt right now; his neck is hurt. What's some advice would you recommend to him to not only get better at his craft, but become a stalwart at the position, and continue to anchor down that left side for our beloved?
Yeah, it's taking care of the body. It
That
is
is key. You're right.
it is taking care of the body. That's one of the things that um, I actually got a very wonderful glimpse of it when I was a rookie, and it was a beautiful thing to see those veteran guys taking care of their bodies in ways. And I didn't take on that routine or thought process until later on in my career, and probably right around year 6, actually. No, right before year 5, actually. 2015 was when I decided to. uh, Not only did I get through leaving Kansas City and going to Minnesota for a short stint, but then I reunited with my offensive line coach Tice in Oakland. But what I did was I changed my whole perspective of how I took care of my body, how much sleep, how much hydration, how much stretching, how much exercise, and the exercise really became uh, it's they describe it as, well, it could be high performance interval training, circuit training, whatever um, but anyway, him taking care of his body is the most important thing, and then that rubs off on the other linemen on how to, being the example is what I'm getting at.
Right.
And I was that in most of my locker rooms. I've always had this tall build, kind of slim build. Not say slim. I was 350 when I was at the Bears. I was way bigger, huge.
Right.
But yeah, it's taking care of the body, and really, if I were to give them a solid, there's muscles in the low back, muscles in the glutes that have to be loosened daily, every other day, and those things will help those linemen. But and that's one of the reasons why now the work that I do is diving into that education for some of these athletes, for some of these professionals, and that education will not only keep them now, but keep them even after the game.
Right. And we're going to talk about that here shortly, Jamarcus. But before we transition to what you're currently doing, because, I'm a testament to what you're currently doing because,
Yes.
look, my back was killing me in that L4, L5, that inflammation and arthritis. And when you got done doing what you was doing, look, I can jump up. I can reach my wide receiver vertical again. So look, I can attest to what you're doing. So before we transition to that, though, I want to know, what is Jamarcus Webb's 3 keys to success for the 2023-2024 Chicago Bears to get on track and start being competitive and win some games? Like, what are you, at this juncture after an 0-3 start? What are 3 keys that you would recommend to get this thing back on the rails to success?
I'm only going to go by experience, right? And by experience, I sat in a room. I sat in a room with a bunch of men that were very, very serious and very, very determined not to allow themselves not allow themselves to be the one in the room, in the locker room, on the field that that wasn't their best, right? And so, what's interesting is I wasn't even actually physically playing and active at the time. I had gotten hurt. I had tore my hamstring. And I was sitting in that room after fighting back to get back to playing. At this particular time, the 6th week is when this meeting happened. And after that, every single week, you saw people flying around. You saw people connecting with one another. The more that they get in tune with themselves and their teammates, that belief that I described, it's like they have to. It's like it's just like a play. It's just like an offensive play. You have to do the play, wipe it clean, and then go to the next one with the highest intensity. Right. Because if you sit back and you think about that other stuff, it's gonna bring the rest of your game down. Because as an offensive lineman, you get 60 to 70 of those tries. And if you sit there and you try and think about every single one of those things that you did not do right, it's like, man, we can't enjoy the things that you do good well. And so therefore, we can't take snapshots, because that's exactly what these players do. They, as you're studying film, a coach says, you see that right there? You see what that looks like right there? That's us doing it phenomenally. Take a picture of that in your brain. That's what's that called? Visualizing, right? Visualizing the wins, visualizing the attack, visualizing yourself in that position, doing it well.
And execute it consistently. I like that. So, Jamarcus, let's take a couple minutes. Hey, let the audience know what you're currently doing. Also, leave them your website, your contact info, because, again, you got a testimony in me that what you're doing, it works. It works at a high level. So take a couple minutes to let the audience know what you're doing and give them your contact information.
I appreciate it. Yes. So the best way to be able to get a hold of me is my website, which is going to be jamarcuswebb.com. It is without an apostrophe. You'll be able to just log on and see some of the few different pictures and info about me, but mainly my push in NFL flag football. I'd like to, take some time right now to finish what I've started, and that is massage therapy school, to become a licensed massage therapist, and then take some of those principles and fundamentals and techniques and present them in different ways to not only corporate accounts, athletes, elderly communities, but also for veterans. And at some point, we'll get a chance to talk about that a little bit more. But right now, everything is slowly moving towards our health being our wealth. And so it's a beautiful day.
It's a great thing. Look, your health is always your wealth. So look, with that, we're going to close. Marcus, you were phenomenal. Look forward to getting with you again in the near future. Keep doing great things, cracking backs, massaging those tendons and ligaments. And like I always say, bear down.
Appreciate it.